Welcome to Swim. I'm going to read A Hero of Our Time. This is the first chapter called Bella. I was traveling post from Tiflis. All the luggage in my small springless carriage consisted of one valise stuffed full of notes on my travels in Georgia. The greater part of them, luckily for you, has been lost, while the valise, with its other contents, luckily for me, remains safe. The sun had already begun to hide behind the snowy range when I drove into the Koshur Valley. Koshur Valley. My Ossetian driver urged the horses on unceasingly in order that we might get to the top of Mount Koshur before nightfall, and sang songs at the top of his voice. What a delightful place, that valley! On all sides rise inaccessible mountains, reddish cliffs, hung over with great ivy and crowned with clumps of plane trees, tawny precipices streaked with washes, and far above the golden fringe of the snows, below Aragva River, unfolding another, nameless river which noisily bursts forth from a black gorge full of gloom, stretches out in a silver thread, and glistens like the sculling of a snake. Having arrived at the foot of Mount Koshur, we stopped near a native inn. Here a score or so of Georgians and mountain tribesmen were crowding noisily about. Close by, a camel caravan had encamped for the night. I had to hire oxen to drag my carriage up that confounded mountain, because it was already autumn and there was ice on the roads, and the ascent was nearly 1.5 miles long. The ascent was nearly 1.5 miles long. There was nothing to do. I hired 6 oxen and several Ossetians. One of them heaved my valise up on his shoulders. The others began to help the oxen along, almost exclusively by means of cries. Behind my carriage, a team of 4 oxen was pulling another carriage with perfect ease, despite its being loaded up to the top. This circumstance surprised me. Behind it walked its owner, pulling a small Capardan pipe mounted with silver. He wore an officer's surtout without epaulets and a Circassian shaggy cap. He seemed about 50 years old. His tanned complexion indicated that his face had long been acquainted with the Transcaucasian sun, and his prematurely grayed mustache did not harmonize with his firm gait and his vigorous appearance. I walked over to him and made a bow. He silently acknowledged my bow and exhaled a huge puff of tobacco smoke. We seemed to be fellow travelers. In silence, he bowed again. I presume you are going to Stavropol? Yes, sire, that's right. With government property. Tell me, please, why is that 4 oxen draw your heavy carriage with ease, while my empty one can barely be moved by means of 6 brutes with the help of these Ossetians? He smiled slyly and glanced significantly at me. You've probably not been long in the Caucasus. About a year, I replied. He smiled a second time. Well, why? It's this way, sire. These Asiatics are terrible rascals. You think they are trying to help with that shouting, but the devil knows what is they are shouting. The oxen, they understand. You may hitch a score of them, but as soon as those drivers start to shout in their own way, the oxen will not budge. Dreadful rogues. But what can you do to them? They love to squeeze money out of travelers. They have been spoiled, the robbers. You'll see, they'll get you to tip them too. I love them well. They can't take me in. And have you been stationed here long? I was already serving here in General Alexei Ermolov's time, he replied with a certain loftiness. When he took over the border command, I was a second lieutenant, he added, and under him was twice promoted for action against the mountain tribes. And now you are... Now I am attached to the 3rd Battalion of the line, and you, may I ask, I told him. With this, the conversation ended, and we continued to walk side by side in silence. All the summit of the mountain we found snow. At the summit of the mountain we found snow. The sun had set and night followed day without any interval, as is usual in the south. However, owing to the sheen of the snows, we could easily make out the road, which still went uphill, although no longer so steeply. I ordered my valise to be put into the carriage, the oxen to be replaced by horses, and turned back for a last glance down at the valley. But a dense mist that had surging waves from the gorges completely covered it, and not a single sound reached our hearing from there. The Ossetians clustered around me noisily, and clamored for tips, but the junior captain berated them so sternly that they at once dispersed. What a crew, he said. They can't even breathe in Russian. They can't even say breath in Russian, but they managed to learn. Officer, give me a tip. In my opinion, even the Tartars are better. At this, they don't drink. We were still about a mile from the station. All was quiet around, so quiet that you could follow a mosquito's flight by its hum. On our left, a deep gorge yawned black. Beyond it and in front of us, the dark blue mountain tops, furrowed with wrinkles, covered with layers of snow, were silhouetted against the pale horizon, which still retained the last reflection of the sunset. Stars were beginning to twinkle in the dark sky, and, strange to say, they seemed to me to be much higher than at home in the north. On either side of the road, bare black rocks jutted out, here and there. From beneath the snow there emerged shrubs, but not a single dry leaf stirred, and it was a joy to hear, amid the dead sleep of nature, the snorting of the three-tire busters, of the irregular jangling of the Russian shaft bell. This is a hero of our time. I think it's good. I kind of like it. Like Gene Simmons says, I like it.